My name is Emily. I was struggling with disordered eating for quite a long time before working with Emily. I was a dancer and I'm now a professional athlete, and I think that impacted my relationship with food in an extremely negative way. Um, I got to the point where I knew I needed to reach out for help. And luckily, I came across Emily on Instagram and her page and decided to set up a consultation and knew immediately that we'd be a good fit.
How would you describe your relationship with food now compared to when you first started?
It is a pretty drastic 180. Like, my relationship with food is quite different. And it's to the point where when I first started working with Emily, I only imagined like getting to this place, but I never actually felt it was possible. Like, it felt so far out of my reach because I genuinely didn't know what it felt like to have a healthy relationship with food. I mean, all I knew was counting calories and tracking macros and being so obsessive over everything I ate for, gosh, anywhere from the past probably 7, 8, 9 years. All of my teenage years and adolescence was so heavily focused around that and my body image and what I looked like. And the obsession started at such a young age that to already be a young adult and not even know what a healthy relationship with food is like. Yeah, when I first started working with Emily, I kind of had this feeling like deep in my stomach that I was like, I don't think I'm going to get there. Like, it's impossible. I don't know what that feels like, right? Like, if I don't know what I'm looking for, I'm never going to get there. Thankfully, I was very wrong. And yeah, my relationship with food is drastically so much better than it was like even 6 months ago.
Like, how do you feel like coaching helped you get to this place where you're at now?
Definitely. The number one thing that I would say coaching brought up for me, or like the greatest benefit from coaching, I've really enjoyed all the work that we did on triggers, because that's a biggest transformation I've seen in myself now, like not working with you anymore, is that I now have the tools and the capability to work through triggers and like identify what they are. Even now, like, we all have bad days, and I'll have a day where I notice, some old habits start creeping in or some old thoughts start creeping in. And, I might be discontent with my body or being nitpicky over what I'm eating. But like, now I have the tools to be able to stop, take a deep breath, and kind of just dissect the situation, look at it from all different angles, and kind of get down to the root of the problem. Whereas before, while working with Emily, I remember, I constantly messaging, just being like, I'm feeling this way, X, Y, and Z, and I have no idea why. Like, I constantly felt in this state of like, I feel like crap. I don't know why, or I'm doing all these unhealthy things, but I don't know why. And so the coaching, having someone to just really ask the right questions and poke and prod, in areas that honestly are very vulnerable, and that the disordered eating side of me wanted to keep secret, was really helpful to just learn that, like, these things need to be put out in the open and broken apart. And also just having someone to hold you accountable. Like, I really didn't truly talk about the nitty gritty details of what I felt I was going through until I started working with Emily.
As somebody in your situation who has that history of counting calories and being really strict with food, and having gone through this transition through becoming an intuitive eater, what else have you gained in your life as a result of healing your relationship with food?
So the number one most prevalent thing that's pretty exciting that I've noticed, since, like, because it's very recent, I am actually now in a relationship. A big thing when I first started coaching, I remember talking about, was that there was this human connection that I felt I was missing, that I hadn't felt in a really long time. I just really didn't feel any sort of strong emotional connection between other people. because I was constantly just sucked into this like void of me, like when you're in that pit of disordered eating, your brain is just constantly revolved around you. And it's very isolating and very lonely. So being able to get to the point where I felt more strong, like as an independent person, allowed me to like open up and bring somebody else into my life in such a close way. So yeah, relationship, really big one. Like I said, I don't think that is coincidental timing. But honestly, just in general, like I truly am a happier person, just more energetic. I mean, obviously, physically, I feel great, because I know like when to feel my body and listen to it and rest when I need to. And um, yeah, I'm just truly that probably the happiest and the greatest mood I've ever been.
And I remember we talked about this before the call to something physical that's happened to you as a result of healing
Yes.
your relationship with
Sure.
food.
Yes, I just recently got my very first period in like 4 or 5 years. It's been a very long time since I had a period. And yeah, through the 6 months of coaching with Emily, that was a very big goal of ours, for me to get my period back. And I definitely reached a little hump where I got a little bit discouraged, but that was also a really good motivator for me through my entire recovery journey, was knowing that in the end, like I have this goal of getting my period back. So even on the days where it was hard, um, I kind of went through the motions of just doing what I knew I had to do because, I wanted to be healthy and I wanted to get my period back.
Would you recommend coaching to somebody who maybe feels like they're not quite ready yet, but they're still kind of interested, but they're not sure like if they should take that first step?
Absolutely, because I also think I was somewhat in the same space. Well, like I said, I reached a point where I knew I needed help, so I reached out. I actually didn't follow through the very first time I reached out, and I found it was kind of easy to make excuses. The very first time I was like, oh yeah, well, like I just can't afford it. And the irony of it is the very first time I had reached out to Emily was a time where I was working a lot and actually making a pretty steady income, but I was still like, I can't afford it. And then the second time I reached out was actually when I was in school full time and not working, and I paid solely out of my savings. And it was 6 months later. So it was a full 6 months of me continuing to struggle and tell myself, like, no, like you can figure this out on your own. Like you're so close, like you can do this by yourself. Um, which like noble cause, but like we all need, help from outside sources. So yeah, I think I was in the same space where there was a part of me making excuses of, why I shouldn't work with somebody. So I remember in October when I started working with Emily, I kind of had a little pep talk with myself. I was like, no, like you are going through with this. Like there was a big part of me that was hesitating, and I just had to like shut that voice up. And I don't regret it for the world. Like the transformation I made in the past 6 months, I mean, so it shocks me. Like it truly does blow my mind. I feel like a completely different person.